for this afternoon. Over to you, Advocate Mpofu. Oh, thank you, Chair. Sarah, I didn't hear. Right. Thank you very much, Chairperson. Okay, Public Protector, we broke at a point where you were talking about the humiliation, the insults that your predecessor had suffered, and where even in your late mother had warned that why do you take such a job when you can see what has happened to your predecessor? And I know that even your sisters, Jeanette, they always tell us that they try to discourage you from doing this because it was one way to trouble. But you've explained why you insisted on doing it and why it gave you such satisfaction to deal with members of the public. Now, I just want to round off that point by relating to something you touched on before lunch, which, you know, you said it in passing, but most people don't even know it, that you should explain why it is that when the date was set for this process, around about June or May, and we asked you to give us lists of witnesses. One of the first names that you suggested was that of Thuli Madonsela, in line with what you have indicated. Why was it so important to you? And Advocate Bauer confirmed last week that indeed she was on our very first list. Well, it was on their list and then she was on our list. In fact, probably one of the few names that appeared on both lists. Why did you feel that you needed her evidence to the extent of asking the committee to subpoena her, which was kindly acceded to, subject to the hijacking exercise that happened?
Thank you, Chairperson. I think Advocate Mpofu, as I said, yes, I'm the one who requested, because for me, I felt she could relate to what I am going through currently. And as I'm saying to you, that the warnings came from my late mother, and she knew how she was treated. So, and the hostility towards her. And I mean, being an African woman, also going through that, and some of the people treating her like that, I thought she would come here as well. When asked, I think as well, Honorable Holomisa asked her, she would then also put issues into perspective and speak with that voice and with after going through that hostility. And unfortunately, you know, I kind of was discouraged in a way, because I thought she would, you know, maybe speak sense to some of the members of the committee, and you know, inform them that it's not easy to do this kind of work, and you are second guessed, you are insulted, and it's as if you are going around and wanting to find people guilty. So I felt, well, sorry for that particular process. And I think, and it's true what you're saying, members of the family, my friends, well, my younger brother always would say, I told you a long time ago, you should not be doing this work, because some of the work which you've done, especially the untouchables, especially capital, because he used to work in the public service, but interact with various racial groups, and he would say, you know, you don't find against certain individuals. So I felt shame, and I felt we should be helping each other, you know, as sisters keeper. But I would say my successors in title, I wouldn't want them to go through the same thing. I think we need to stop this. And hence I'm saying to members of the committee, some of them, those who have ears, let's not continue doing this, because sometimes you are being used by the powers that be so that you don't, you know, liberate people from this cycle of oppression, because some people are benefiting out of the fights amongst us as Black people.
Yes. Thank you. Now, I think you've already answered my next question, how you were discouraged or disappointed. And but how did it make you feel when you were now, instead of, I know you expected her as someone who had gone through what you had gone through to maybe educate us, but how did you feel when it was actually suggested that you only called her, in other words, when you were referring to Honorable Olumisa's question about the insults that were held against her, that actually you, through your lawyers, I suppose, were the one who was making those insults? How did that make you feel?
I felt sad, and it was a shame actually for some people who are thinking like that, because I thought, you know, people will understand, and as well just try to show that whatever is happening now, we need to bring a stop, or we need to stop this persecution. But then I think when that matter was raised, it was to make sure that it's dealt with once and for all, and so that people are not concentrating on such petty issues, but they understand that she was doing her work the best she knows how, and the vilification, it was not justified against her, and the body shaming and all those. But I thought, you know, she would also come to my rescue. But I think it was as if there was that issue of, it's as if you wanted to embarrass her, or I think people took it as if we are fighting, or we are in a fight, or, you know, so sometimes it was more of not being cooperative, but we were trying to show that, you know, whatever is happening, was happening to her, it's still happening even to this day. I mean, and besides the issue of body shaming and everything, also the issue of the judgments and what happened with her, and how the members of parliament, some are treating her, were treating her. The same thing is happening. Can we stop this cycle? Yeah.
All right. Well, then I don't think you should bother yourself if you want my advice about what I said, the minds of the size of a peanut. But anyway, so if you can go to paragraph 14, no, sorry, Chair. You at paragraph 10 quickly, which is page 6, Tsepo, page 502. Yes, I think you covered 8 and 9, and here you talk about an unholy alliance. Just to round off the issue of how you see this process, can you take us to paragraph 10? Sorry, is the computer taking slow? I can read that one on the screen without my glasses. So I don't know which one you prefer, the screen or the computer, your computer.
No, I'm reading my computer here.
Okay, can you please then take us?
Yes, it is. All right. It is these factors which have led to the formation of the unholy alliance between the DA and the ANC to advance their common objective of removing me from office by hook or crook. And if the courts are to be believed, mostly by crook, because, can I elaborate?
Yes, please.
I mentioned this because I indicated earlier that when the charges are read or when people are meant to take an oath, it's like the removal of the public protector. It's as if it's concluded that I should be removed. And the worst thing is that, as the public protector Sokoni said, that when she was testifying, that it's as if, or if we take the judgments as they are, and I think you've tried to deal with those.
Yeah.
If a judge, and even my predecessor, you asked the question and you read that NEF judgment and the SABS judgment, if you take it as is and you charge a person, like Honorable Mazoni indicated that I should be charged because I've lost the following cases, then, and those judgments which we've shown and we're still going to show, that they are based on wrong facts. I mean, it's very clear that I should be removed. And I think I mentioned these parties specifically because the speaker should have made sure that she's not possibly tricked to thinking that that is the way to go about, because it shouldn't have happened in the first place. And I think I'm also mentioning it here because, you know, during the weekend, I went to some wedding where somebody comes to me and say, hey, you are in parliament, you are an ANC person, and what is happening about this? We don't have electricity and stuff like that. I said, no, I'm not an ANC person. The very same ANC is also now persecuting me. Why do you say I'm an ANC person? So that's why I wrote it like this, because this shouldn't have been allowed, that I come and sit here. State payers' money is being used to just deal with me the way I'm being dealt with.
Thank you. And thank you. Earlier in the morning, you went through about talking about taxpayers' money, how many attempts you have made, even to this committee, of saying, please, let's not waste money. We're in court. Let's hang 10 on the process and maybe wait for the court process. But there was this eagerness to continue wasting the money. And we heard from the chairperson last week that the same people that were refusing your request to save the money by waiting for the court processes are now saying that you must proceed effectively without legal representation. How does that make you feel?
You know, Advocate Mpofu, a chairperson, it makes me feel very sad because the very same, one of the charges is charged, 3-4, where I'm charged or I'm being told, or the Honorable Mazon, who's supposed to come here and explain between legal cost and legal fees. What does she mean? Even the very same cases which I'm said to have lost, we were defending the very same public because we investigated the matters, and those who have deep pockets take us to court. And I thought when we defend the matters, we are helping the court to understand that, can you make sure that the very same poor and marginalized get justice? Now, on all the matters which we spoke about in the morning, issue of retrospectivity of the rules, issue of legal representation, which at the end of the day, and the very same thing of suspension, not waiting for the court process, but also it's as if it's retaliatory. That's what has been very clear. Now we were in court on Monday saying there are these issues of conflicts. Honorable Mailham, Honorable Janji, you know, it's not what you feel. Yes, you can say, no, I'm fair PP, but how do I feel with you being part of the process? And the letter we wrote in January, or is it January, where we were saying to the speaker, or when Honorable Mutsaha by then saying, talking about issues of incompetence
Sorry,
and stuff.
that's PM3, the letter of January
Yes.
2020. Yes.
And the rules of parliament are very clear. Rule what 88. Uguti, you cannot comment about the competence of an institution. So it's that. And now we appeared at court. We're hoping Guti, the justices have had, and also it's for history, which will have to be made as well. Can you really, in the midst of all this Supreme Court of Appeal judgments, international judgments, go ahead and allow a situation like this? Because at the end of the day, they'll come back and say, you know, if they say, no, but this matter, you cannot have these people must be recused, then you're risking the whole 9 months. How much have you paid my legal team? How much have you paid the evidence leaders? How much have we spent, me coming here, the office paying, and the very same office which has written to the speaker now and the chairperson that they won't be funding come end of March. And there's a constitutional court judgment which says you need to be represented. So how are we going to proceed, Chairperson? Because then it means your process will be stifled. The very same office which they were not a party to the Western Cape High Court. They sent directors of firm of attorneys. They sent SC to just be on a watching brief, where they asked how much was that. So I think let's just look on through all these matters. I mean, Honorable Hendricks once said possibly 1 million is being spent, which I think that was asked. We would want to know how much is spent. Is it worth it? Now I'm remaining with how many months in this position, and we're still pushing this particular matter. So I think, yeah. And all in the name of what? Me doing my work.
Yeah, well, as they say in the streets, it is what it is. Now you take us to now, okay, let me maybe round off that point. Yeah. If you had been listened to, for example, when you said in October that when you said that let's stop this and wait for the recusal review application. I think that was in October, on the 27th of October last year. If you had been listened to, then, well, we don't know how much money would have been saved, but we know that a lot of money would have been saved. But maybe to explain to the members of the public, the case that was argued on Monday in court about the recusal of Honorable Mailham and the chairperson. If that succeeds, then what will happen?
As I said that, I mean, it will have to start de novo, afresh, and how much has been spent in this particular matter. And if we were given an opportunity and, you know, correct that, have other members or then reach a settlement, I think we wouldn't be in this situation. And I think we would have saved a lot of money. But again, still insisting that it's good that we are here and it's good that now the public is listening to me. But the fact of the matter is, will this be worth the money which we've spent up to this far?
Yes. Well, that takes us to paragraph 14 then. Or let's start with paragraph 13, maybe to put it in perspective, and then we'll go to 14. Can you read out paragraph 13?
Any objective, fair, and reasonable analysis of what has occurred during my incumbency until this point can only lead to one conclusion and one conclusion only. I'm not guilty of the charges concocted by Honorable Mazon of the DA and supported by the ANC majority. On the contrary, I have taken the office of the Public Protector to greater and unprecedented performance and governance issues pertaining to proper accountability.
Yes, thank you. Okay, let's just pause there. You have indicated that this, as far as you're concerned, is a what you call the special project. Yeah. But let's talk about the second part of that statement. Again, I think given your most ardent critics, even Mr. Samuel, of all people, have said that you have indeed taken the office to greater heights. Can you just tell us, we will come to this when we deal with the so-called HR issues, but some of the issues that, sorry, I just want to fast forward to, it's fine, we'll come back to that. I wanted to dispense with another section that we're going to deal with. But let's just talk maybe just about governance. Let's leave out the other performance. Everyone knows about the 3 clean audits in a row, unprecedented. None of the quote unquote giants that preceded you could achieve even 1 clean audit. What drove you to that, and how did you manage it, that miraculous feat?
The first thing which we did, I indicated earlier that our mandate is to investigate undue delay, discourteous behavior, improper conduct in state affairs, the way it's so wide. And we cannot be going around investigating state institutions when we ourselves are guilty, or we have investigations which are not finalized for 10 years, for 6 years. So we then decided to just prioritize that, because, you know, when complainants feel disgruntled, when they knock at all the doors and they come to us, we treat them like that. That's why you'll find them even breaking windows and, you know, behaving like that. And it was not the first time. It happened when I was 2-3 years in the office, when one of the complainants reached that level. And it was a question of saying, when they come to us, let's make sure that we listen. There's nothing which makes a person happy, just to give them an ear. And even if you won't be helping them, but at least listen to them. So secondly, there were a number of issues which I've found there. It was not possible for my predecessors to have a clean audit, or especially the first advocate Matonsala, because when I arrived there was a forensic report where they had outsourced investigations to various firm of attorneys. There was a lot of violations of the supply chain management policies, treasury prescripts, and that was making them not to be able to have clean, or there were a lot of material issues which, when we were trying to resolve them, Auditor General, when they come audit, and those for the accounting officer and the CFO were the key challenges because, and they would say, no, you need issues of consequence management. Those who conducted those, they need to be disciplined. And as well, we need to get a condonation from National Treasury. When we wrote to National Treasury, it was a delay. So finally, when we were joined by Mr. Vusi Mahlangu, who had experience and worked in Treasury in the past, that's one of the things which he said, this we will achieve. And indeed, it was a team effort. Somebody will say, but no, that's an accounting officer's responsibility. But you will never have an accounting officer because it depends on the executive, which will have to make sure that they have an oversight on how the operations of the institutions are being conducted. Because it's one thing to have an accounting officer who will follow the PFMA to the latter, but then you have an executive who's a minister or a board chairperson or a board who will then spend or demand that you appoint people without following prescripts or demand that you appoint companies without following prescripts. So hence we had to make sure that, myself included, we also act accordingly. I don't demand things. I don't even, because that was an issue of also, there's two firm of attorneys, I think it Adams and Adamson and Gilfil, and which were used by the institution over and over. And there was no panel of attorneys, where we had to say, insist, firstly, we utilize the IEC panel of attorneys as a Chapter 9 institution. Then later, we had to advertise and appoint our own, or have a panel of attorneys, which we had to utilize. So those are the small things which we did with the team. Hence, it was a team effort. It was not only my achievement.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I think if anyone goes through your statement and at your insistence, and if anyone goes through your evidence, your oral evidence, and do a word search, the word that they will find the most frequent is we. So explain that, why everything you get all the credits about, clean audits about, reducing the backlog, about all the things that you have been credited with here, staff morale, and so on. But you always insist that it should not just be attributed to you as an individual. Can you explain that?
It's understanding, though I've been portrayed by those 15 witnesses. It's as if I'm this monster of a person. And when I joined the institution.
No, I have to defend the witnesses. I think out of those 15, maybe 8 of them said that you were the best boss you ever had. So
okay.
Let's.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the issue of working with a team. I mean, you've had some of the witnesses, Bo Tebele, Bo Matabuche, Vuyana, and them, who were saying they conducted the investigations themselves. So, and if you think how hard they work, and myself included, that we finalize the backlog, we should be leading by example, as I said, because that's our core, that's our key mandate. And when we issue reports, it's a collective. When the backlog is reduced, it's a collective. And they are professional in their own spaces, because I wouldn't just claim this work alone. Yes, I was the driver, or I was the leader of this team. As a collective, we managed to do that. And coming back to the issue of consequence management, I know we're still going to deal with those issues, because when Auditor General checks your systems, your processes, your delays, your violation, irregular expenditure, and not complying to your own policies, they always will be saying, what steps did you put in place? And consequence management. And consequence management doesn't mean that you would be dismissing people. Consequence management, you'll mean you have to make people to account, because how do you learn without taking accountability, without being asked for the reasons? Why did you delay to finalize this matter? Why did you procure this without following the procurement processes? So that you can then, in a way, a little bit, a while you'll be changing and understanding that this is how I should be dealing with the matters. So it was not my work. Yes, 6.5 years, we work as a team. And I'm proud to say that each and every member of the Public Protector Office has put their all in making sure that they deal with the complaints and the poor and the marginalized, and they change their living conditions. So it's frustrating, Kona, to see that I'm now charged for incompetence. I've never brought the country to 8 hours of load shedding and affect businesses and affect livelihood of people. Some people are dying in hospitals because there are no generators and everything. But I'm sitting here, was trying to change the lives of the people, and I'm being treated like this, maybe because I'm not the right color. I don't know. Yeah.
Thank you. Maybe we should, if they don't want you in Public Protector, I will take you to ESCOM.
Yeah, I can make a big difference there.
Thank you. We need that. Thank you. No, now you said that, no, well, it's true on a serious note here. It does make a difference that you're of a particular color and of a particular gender, but that we will leave to the members of the public. And how do you feel then when some of the people you are talking about who have done that to the country are praised as heroes, while you are condemned as a pariah and be a victim of a cruel witch hunt such as this one?
I feel very sad because, I mean, with all the persecution I've been facing, I remember even from the media, there was a stage when I was labeled possibly, am I the enemy of the state?
Yes.
Financial Times
Mail.
showing me as this Medusa, ne?
I think it was the Financial Mail, yeah.
Mail,
Wait, I
yes.
don't know if it's part of the documents, but yes.
Yeah. So, you know, and you trying to uplift people, you are trying to show that there are these root causes in the system which generation after generation, you'll still face the same challenges. And you find people who are performing badly. I think in South Africa, there's that challenge. Uguti, when you excel in your work, you will be vilified, you'll be treated badly. And hence I'm saying I've counted or I've checked a lot of Black professionals, the way they are being treated, and who've tried to change the living conditions of the people are treated like that. Hence I'm saying it feels very sad to be treated like that. And when you see other people who are performing badly are then promoted or are then held to high regard.
Thank you. Now, before we come to your personal credentials, I just want to round off that issue about, you say somewhere that you wanted and we will deal with that when we deal with Vision 2023. You wanted to leave the institution in a much better place than where you found it. And you wanted to do a smooth handover to your successor. Unfortunately, you're here wasting time while the public is left without its public protector. But just to put that matter into perspective, you say at paragraph 86, I'm just jumping to so that we round off that point. You describe the conditions which you found there. That's page 38, big page 534, etc. Yes. Can you just describe the situation that some of the challenges that you found there, maybe by reading 86?
To my dismay, I found the institution in some state of disarray. I had to hit the ground running, literally. Not having received any job specification, no training, exacerbated things. Some of the issues which I identified as concerning included massive backlogs in respect of different types of categories of cases, especially the bread and butter issues, because what we call administrative justice and service delivery matters, the numbers were higher. The shortage of staff shortages, and the staff shortages also then will deal with, we should have said staff shortages, human resource related challenges, security clearance issues, which was one of the key issues I've picked up when I arrived there. Persistent governance issues and audit queries. I've mentioned the issue of outsourced investigation. There's a report, I think we've uploaded the OMA report or forensic report, which showed a lot of gaps in the system. Low staff morale. I think even Hamilton Samuel indicated that on that issue, they were taking the institution to CCMA. I intervened, made sure that they also their issue of occupational dispensation processes or payments is resolved. There was some files which are missing information or we are not getting evidence. I mean, I think on the CX we'll deal with it. Some of the information was not there. Then there was issues of transformation and affirmative procurement, especially in relation to legal services. For instance, the repeated utilization of the same white law firms without a panel of attorneys in breach of Section 217 of the Constitution and the regulated the regulated framework.
Sorry, on that one, we know that I think Advocate van der Merwe considered that all the work there was, as you said, outsourced and to the mainly white firms. How did that affect the performance in terms of the imperatives of transformation and affirmative procurement?
That's one of the things, especially because the Auditor General picked up that and flagged it. And it was one of the things which we should have resolved. And I must indicate that as a learning institution, we had to change, we had to be compliant, we had to make sure that this is not recurring, because there was then an advertisement to open up the space to allow all the firms of attorneys to apply to be on our panel so that they can be utilized. So that's one thing which we did as an institution, because it was wrong that we use only 2-3 companies and which were doing cases. Some of them, they were never stopped immediately, I must indicate, because the matters were still in court, the matters, they were still following up. So it was not a question of just stopping them, but we had to do it systematically, because understanding that now they understand the nitty-gritties of that particular matter, but we had to change that because it was wrong. Yeah. Payment of service providers in terms of treasury regulations.
Yes, no, sorry, it was still on 86.7. I wanted just to, I know I'm not giving evidence, but I want to preface this by you explaining to the committee why you have a passion for this. I've been in the legal profession for a number of decades, and I'm happy to say that I've never met a leader of any institution in this country or minister or anything like that who's committed, so committed to the issue of ensuring that Black lawyers in particular and are given an opportunity, and also women. So for those who don't know, it's because of your insistence that you have a team like this. For example, as we're sitting here, majority women, and why you take those kinds of things so seriously and insist that you know, unlike your predecessor in particular, that Black people in every profession or service provider sphere that you deal with, despite all the noise and nonsense, that to show what drives you to do that, what makes you such a champion of transformation, both in terms of race or gender.
You know, I think one thing I normally say is that because of the inequalities in South Africa, well, I mean, the issue of inequality being one of the key issues, because always we're trying to deal with the issue of the triple challenges. I've said that during even my interview, inequality, poverty, unemployment. Every opportunity which one gets, I mean, why pay a lip service and say we have this constitution, we need to uplift the poor, the marginalized? And I think we're still going to deal in a Vision 2023, because for me is, how do you empower a person to such an extent that they can stand for themselves instead of just leaving people or not empowering people? Because by doing this, how many families are you empowering? Because for me, I also was exposed to a situation where illegal profession, and having seen some attorneys as well marching to the union building, saying state attorneys is not giving them opportunities and work. And how do we utilize the state institutions to assist in the issues of transformation, but assist in the issues of economic empowerment? So this was one of the areas which would also assist in empowering the people. And I mean, a lot of the matters we're dealing with are constitutional and administrative matters, service delivery related. So if you then give a Black company or a Black advocate, who would also sometimes they would understand the environmental issues which people are subjected to. Because if I gave the vendor pension matter to Advocate Ngalwane, who would understand the impact of not reaching a solution to that matter. After my predecessor issued a report, I issued a special report. So to me also, it was a question of just empowering them. And it's still my passion. I will do it over and over. Unfortunately, in this committee, then it was portrayed as if, there's ulterior motives or some lawyers are benefiting where they have done the work and they've excelled in what they were doing, and not to say they were just paid for not doing their work. So hence, I've been intentional in doing this, and I will continuously do that.
Thank you very much. And for the record, all those victories that we talk about in the morning, whether it was about advising Parliament that there should be rules, whether it was about the issue of legal representation, whether it was about the suspension by the president, and all those you delivered with Black brains, and all your opponents in all those cases where this parliament and of course the DA had where on the other side had the exact opposite. So I think it's something to be mentioned. All right, now you go to 86.8. It said payment of service providers in terms of the treasury regulations. What was that as a challenge?
It was a challenge, not paying service providers within 30 days. I mean, that is very clear. Again, that should be driven by each and every public servant. Because if you don't pay a service provider within 30 days, you are violating the laws. But secondly, you are then creating financial strain. There's a number of small businesses which are suffering. They are not being paid on time. And this, I must say, SC and Chairperson, it also perpetuates issues of corruption, because you find that a small company, SMME, has performed, they are not paid on time. Some are expected to pay Bayola, which is a bribe, so that their payments can be fast-tracked. That time a person has conducted or has performed. So as an institution, we cannot then be doing the very same thing which we are investigating out there. Hence, we had to make sure that we comply. And that drastically changed, because it's one of the criteria or the requirements which Auditor General was checking, so that we can excel. And it will also change a number of livelihood of those small businesses. But a lot of businesses, they just are driven out of business because they perform, they are not paid. How do you pay your workers? How do you order any stock and stuff like that? So it has that ripple effect. So we had to make sure that we change that.
Thank you. Then the 86.9, you talk about one of the challenges, excessive reliance on consultants in respect of core functions. For example, as reflected in the OMA, I don't know what that is, forensic report, which was uploaded under bundle H, item 14, page 341. Okay, let's forget about the detail. You talk about excessive reliance on consultants in respect of core functions. What was that? Can you assist the committee to conceptualize that as a challenge?
Yes, there were a number of reports which were outsourced. The public protector is allowed to do that under Section 7, subsection 3, to acquire the services of either the secondment from other departments or any other companies. But then the problem here was that the outsourcing of those investigations, it was not clear the terms of reference. Some of the firm of attorneys and companies were paid. I mean, the arrangement was that they should be paid. I think the arrangement was 70,000 per investigation, but some were paid more than that. Some were even paid without delivery of the service. So it was a wasteful expenditure, because they conducted the investigation, they didn't submit the report. So this is what it means. But then besides this OMA report, I mean, when I was presenting the report of my predecessor in Parliament, hence the accusation that I was, as if I'm painting her negatively, but it was the report which had information that some of the consultants which were utilized was when the state of capture investigation. Remember, they approached National Treasury for the funds. There was this auditing firm which was also engaged. They were working with, I think it's Ernst & Young or PricewaterhouseCoopers, but when they were conducting that particular investigation. So you can do that, but the issue is, what are the limitations to that? And I think my passion then being the issues of security, I think it was very critical for me to refrain from doing that.
Good. Then the last one you put as misalignment of meetings and unnecessary traveling time. Can you briefly tell us that as a challenge that you found?
You know, the famous think tank meetings, which I was accused of stopping, and it was, you know, a very operational issue which was blown out of proportion. And unfortunately, we had Miss Mkhwebane who came here, who was once an acting CEO, where we were checking where can we cut and, you know, save the costs. Because the issue was, you come, think tank was every quarter. There's various investigations which they come and present our provincial representatives. They come, they leave their investigators. You find there's lots of gaps. They present those reports. They are not up to date. You send them back. They go back to their offices, work continue. 3 months, they come back. Things are not done. Those things are still pending. And there was a stage where we said, okay, possibly then come bring along that senior investigator so that we can engage with them directly. But it's traveling costs. We don't have resources. So there was a stage, then a decision was taken that, okay, let's minimize that. Or we also tried to say, Western Cape matters are not going to be presented by Western Cape. Send those drafts to the Eastern Cape team. The Eastern Cape must present so that we can see whether they can cross present so that we promote the issue of speedy dealing with matters and quality assurance. That failed. Hence, then I decided with the leadership, see the then accounting officer, let's limit that. Let's only have a small team, which was in my office, Sabo Matlawe, Kekana, and I think Dicheni sometimes, to deal then with those, because a lot of the reports came from that think tank. If you check all the what is posted on Dropbox, the think tank, and then register, the task register, which Debele spoke about, they were coming from that. So we had to save a lot of money. And then we said we wanted to have a teleconference, and deal with these issues, which we did in a number of instances, which also helped to reduce the traveling expenses. So it was a lie that we had to cut a budget, outreach. Because the outreach, the very same tourist thing was saying, I was working at Home Affairs as a regional representative, or as a provincial director, chief director in Limpopo. We can do this. We can create a district model and make sure that instead of dealing with individual municipalities, you deal with them as a district model. Then we save on you having to do outreach to a few people in one local municipality, but then do it in a broader district model. So those were mechanisms which were there, because if you speak about the issue of unnecessarily traveling, person will be traveling to one area, meet less than 10 people. So we were saying, instead of doing that, travel to an area where you have all the local municipalities in one district, then you at least meet a lot of people, and you will be impactful.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Before we move back to the where we were in the statement, I was just going forward because it linked up with the issue of the issue that you had raised of how you found the office. Do you think, because apart from your passion and all the things that you've said, your passion for transformation, for delivery, for the poor, improvement, and so on, compared to your predecessors, I mean, it's light and day compared to all your predecessors, not just in the area of clean audits and backlogs. and all that. And one has to find something more than, as I say, your obvious passion for work and hard work. Do you think one of the secret ingredients is the fact that you, unlike anybody else who had occupied that office, actually had worked there as an investigator and you knew the environment? So you were able, for example, you tell us you found a report there that had been sitting for 6 years and you did it in 9 months. To what extent, really, is the question? Can you please tell the committee in your own words, did that experience of having worked there on the ground contribute to your excellence?
I'll start by saying I think it's the issue of well, in whatever you do, wanting to serve whoever you can serve without even expecting anything in return. Another benefit was that, as I said earlier, I worked in a human rights related environment. So working there, yes, it was very helpful that I worked as a senior investigator in the public protector.
Yes, can you please, I really want you to take the committee into your confidence as to what edge or advantage that particular experience gave you of having, I think we've had 4 or 5 witnesses who have said, I knew the public protector because we worked together as investigators and so on. And when she came back, it was easy to relate. We've had so many accounts. And in my estimation, that is something that maybe that's the magic answer. Can you just tell us how it was to be there at the bottom and then now to be able to relate to those people who are at that quote unquote ground, at the ground level?
Yes, I think the first one is that serving, but then secondly as well, I knew the operations of the office and how to conduct the investigations. That's been my strength throughout my work environment, because I'm this person when I get into an institution, I wouldn't want to not know how the system works and how to process any application. I mean, working at Home Affairs during the Zimbabwe uprisings, I was at the director level, but I had to fold my sleeves and process asylum seekers. Working in China, when it was very critical for me to put things aside, is to know the system and how to process applications there. You know why that helps? If you work in a service delivery environment, or that as well is, I'm encouraging everyone. If you are a director, a DDG, or well, all our DGs and DDGs, we are like that in public service. I remember we were laughing about CE and ACO. But then I think the minute you do that, you won't have a situation where a senior investigator will come back to you and say, no, public protector, this is not possible. Because you've been there and you know it's possible for you to do that. So I think that helped me, because I never behaved as if, no, I'm the executive. But maybe that's why sometimes then people felt I'm encroaching a lot into their space. Because for me, it was purely to make sure that we deliver on time. And again, not for our selfish or numbers that we've processed so many, but whatever we've done, what impact does it do to the person which we are serving? Yeah.
And well, on a lighter note, when you were just an investigator there, did you ever think you will be the public protector yourself without, if that person had not nominated you?
Definitely not. I mean, I never thought I'll be the public protector. For me, I worked under Judge Bakwa, and I never thought I would be the public protector. I worked under Advocate Mushwana. as the senior investigator, and then he gave me an opportunity to be the acting regional provincial representative. And I think one comment which was made by PP Sokoni from Zambia, who said some of the witnesses, well, when they came here and some of the issues, he was saying, hey, now when you say you worked in that institution and those people were your colleagues, now you come back and you are their executive, possibly some people might not take it kindly. So possibly that's why you will never be, because I think you remember Samuel saying, I was just a trainee, or I was fearing the issue
of prosecutors.
Yes, and
aspirant
yes,
prosecutor.
And I was scared of challenges because I stopped eating tank. And eating tank, I was stopping it because I could see that I wouldn't allow a process with the accounting officer saying, we don't have money, we are not delivering. People are coming, staying in hotels, claiming a SNT, going back. It's as usual. You have Busisiwe, who has lodged a complaint. It's 2 years, 6 years, nothing is happening. So I think I was driven by that. So it was by the grace of God that I went back to this institution to assist whoever can assist.
Thank you very much. Yes, no, I think that assists a lot for us to try and find what your secret, what the secret is to your successes. All right. Now, at paragraph 14, if you can just go through those items, sorry, 503. If you go to those items and then speak to them, you say, oh yes, we've spoken about the unprecedented performance, and that's what we were unpacking now. So paragraph 14, can you read out, and then you'll take us through in the same way without too much elaboration on each of the points.
Okay. To put matters into their proper perspective, I wish to point out the following glaring absurdities. My 7-year non-renewable term of office will expire in 6 months' time, October the 15th, 2023. Based on past experience, within the next few weeks or days, they might be advertising the position of a public protector, shortlisting and interviewing for the next public protector. And that process, I think, will commence soon. And the current inquiry, which we're still not yet sure how much it costs. I think I spoke about it earlier, but one member said around 1 million per day, including the non-financial cost to the public for the instability cost in the office, which is incalculable. I'll expand on that later.
Right.
Contrary to the popular and false narrative, my legal team and I have been to courts on countless occasions, making several attempts to stop the commencement or the continuation of this illegal process, which we've shown several times that sometimes we are rushing and we might end up with a process which will have to start afresh. So I've mentioned the Constitutional Court. Currently there are 2 judgments which we are awaiting. The full court of the Western Cape High Court, the judgment was reserved, and the Constitutional Court respectively. So on each occasion, the President, the Speaker and the Chairperson of the committee and or the DA have opposed all efforts to stop this costly and pointless and futile exercise. Again, hence I said that I'm sitting here with those charges, which I've explained how they came about.
Right.
So the witness called by the evidence leaders and the committee alone have effectively exonerated me of any impeachable wrongdoing.
Sorry, Chaba. Can you just
the witness called by the evidence leaders and all committee alone have effectively exonerated me of any impeachable wrongdoing in respect of any single one of the charges No fair court of law can possibly uphold the contrary finding, which will inevitably be made by the current DA and ANC overwhelming majority in the committee. The impeachment effort is therefore doomed to fail if subjected to any fair judicial scrutiny.
Okay, can we then go back? So the first 2 points you make is that your term is ending in a few months, and the interview cycle is scheduled to start. How do you know that? What happened in your own experience the last time when you were an interviewee?
Yeah, I think around 2-3 months' time, indeed, it will start. They will advertise the position and start with the interviews. Indeed, that's what transpired during the process when I was nominated. And the question is, members of the committee and the public at large, is that the outcome, or is that the process we would want to pursue going forward? And I should be in the office, making sure. In fact, I've been saying that when the process of me, like last year when we were doing a lot of meetings, going through the investigations, coming up with a new model of how we are conducting investigations, I was always saying to the team, this is my last year. I would want to make sure that my successor would come to this institution and they just find that we don't have a backlog. All the matters are still within time. Then they will have enough time to, do their work, come up with their vision and proceed with that. So it was purely that. And I wanted that process to be so. So now the issue of the resources, when the office has written a letter that they wouldn't be able to pay the legal cost of my attorneys and legal team, and because they don't have the resources.
Yes. And all right. So yes, I think my team did check what happened the last time. Yes, you're quite right. The process of advertising usually starts around March, April. So we can expect it at any time. But anyway, we're here now. And the good news, as you said in the morning, is that you've had an opportunity to speak to South Africans yourself, which you've been so eager to have. Now, this we've already covered what if there's 2 cases where we're waiting for judgment. If there's findings in your favor once more, then this process will have to be started from day one. In other words, every cent we've spent on this would have gone to the dustbin. Paragraph 15 we've covered. That's where you were referring back to why you are participating in protest. We've covered that in the morning. And then if you can go to paragraph 16 and then maybe take us through that before I go to your personal CV.
So this one, I know you are leading me, SC, but then there's that paragraph 4, which deals with the rule 1298D, functions and powers of the committee.
So thank you. Sorry about that. Well, I might be leading you, but it's your statement, not mine. So we can go to paragraph 4 as a preface to this. Yes. Yes. Paragraph 4. That's where you were explaining the situating the issue of fairness in particular. And maybe I don't know if you want to paraphrase it or maybe you should read it out.
I think for the members of the public to understand that the
Good.
functions and powers of the committee, in terms of rules of the National Assembly 12980, the committee must. So it's a must.
Sorry,
they don't have
maybe
discretion.
sorry, PP. Can you just maybe read the whole paragraph, because the rule is situated within that context.
Yes, from the beginning.
Mm.
So the purpose of this affidavit is to outline to varying degrees of detail some of the key issues which arise from more than 60,000 pages of documentary and other evidence which has so far been presented as forming the basis of the charges laid by Ms. Mazone, MP, against me, which therefore in turn form the basis of the accusations whose veracity the Section 1941 committee is tasked to establish in terms of Rule 129AD of the applicable rules of the National Assembly, which states that the functions and powers of the committee. The committee must, when the Assembly has approved the recommendations of the independent panel in terms of Rule 129Z, proceed to conduct an inquiry and establish the veracity of the charges and report to the Assembly thereon. So
Okay.
it's
Can you
establish
pause
the
there?
veracity. Yeah.
Yes. When that rule says that this committee must, then the Assembly has approved the recommendations of the independent panel. What do you understand by that? Because the committee seems to understand that to mean that they must go back to the original Mazoni panel. So irrespective of the recommendations of the independent panel.
Again, that is going against the rules of Parliament. And remember, the panel was also appointed by the Speaker. The panel was paid to do the work which they've done. And the panel had findings of prima facie evidence, which was based on paper. And the panel had other issues which they said are not supposed to be dealt with, or there's no prima facie case.
Yes.
I mean, the issue of Baloyi, the issue of
Pillay.
other human resource related issues.
Yeah.
So
and Pillay, the
issue of
Baloyi and Pillay, they said there was nothing.
Yes, so that's what the panel was what did, and that's what the committee should have looked into the matter. So unfortunately, the scope of the inquiry then was expanded, because this committee, their directives, then they focused on the original Honorable Mazoni's motion, which then expanded the scope of this investigation drastically. And I think we are 8 months to 9 months here. And if we only focused on those few items which were recommended by the panel, possibly we would have been very far with this particular matter. So then 2, it says the committee must ensure that the inquiry is conducted in a reasonable and procedurally fair manner within a reasonable time frame.
Okay, let's pause on that one. So the committee also has an obligation to ensure a reasonable and procedurally fair manner. Do you feel that you have been treated reasonably and in a procedurally fair manner?
I have not been treated fairly. I will say, firstly, I indicated during my first appearance on the 11th of July that I'm participating in this committee under protest. I remember when I was suspended, my emails were closed. I couldn't access them from the 9th of June, I think, until the first week of July. I couldn't access my emails. I couldn't access certain information because there were key critical information from that. And then we raised the issue of Honorable Mileham within a week after the proceedings have started, after discovering, because honestly, I didn't know that he's the spouse of the complainant, Honorable Mazon. And there were still pending cases, which we were pleading with this committee to say, can these matters be dealt with before we can proceed? Well, the scope was expanded. The refusal to amend the directives because we gave our own inputs. The treatment which the legal team has been facing, because it's a question of how each party is allocated the time frame to cross-examine, to determine the veracity of the allegations. And most of the time was any matter or objection we were raising, I think it's out of 10, possibly 2, which we were given an opportunity to, or were accepted to our favor. So when all those things were happening, I was just hoping that it will change. But what then the last straw was the inhumane treatment, which I still say today, when I was feeling sick, when my legal team was raising the issue of requesting the postponement because they were going to be busy with the court matter. Then they were given that. But when we raised the issue that we cannot proceed because I am not there as the accused person, I need to be present, I'm sick. But then the committee proceeded to examine or ask questions to Ms. Tejani. And I think I felt as if it means I'm not human. Hence I said even earlier the last time, hardened criminals will be given that opportunity, but I was never given an opportunity. So the buildup of all these issues, unfortunately, makes me to feel, because it's what I feel, Oguti, I was never given that opportunity. Whereas there was a time when my legal team were not present, the committee proceeded to hear the evidence of Niels van der Merwe, because at the end of the day, there would be opportunities for my team to object live, to raise issues with the chairperson and the committee, but that never happened. So I think this is a learning curve. I'm here, I indicated earlier, I'm being used in this process. Everyone is learning. The world is watching. I think the public protector Zambia said it. Whatever happens in South Africa, unfortunately, as Africa, it replicates to us. So I think they should be learning. They should know in the future that if such process is conducted, be as objective as possible and make sure that you are seen to be objective, because it's a question of everyone following and watching. But unfortunately, Mina, that's how I feel, and I still feel like that, Uguti. I never received any assistance. It was worse. I mean, finding women like Honorable Gondwe proceeding as if that person, even if I had a heart attack or I died that day, it means to them it was nothing, because they're rushing to this within a reasonable time frame. But here is a reasonable and procedurally fair manner within a reasonable time frame. And I mean, if you can calculate how many times we requested that we be given an opportunity and how many times this committee also took their time to conduct their committee work and the break between those times. So I think, yeah, it was not a fair, or I didn't feel it's a fair process, because we are checking who is in the fire here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, okay, I think we mustn't brush over that point. So indeed, you are saying that it was reported that you were sick and indisposed. Nobody knew how sick you were. As you say, you could have been literally dead. It's not an exaggeration. You could have had a small headache, or you could be comatose. We didn't know how sick you were. But the committee decided to continue with a witness where you could have been literally in a mortuary for your impeachment of that dead person. How fair can that be? Or is there any reason you can think of under the sun why any committee of fair human beings could treat a fellow human being like that?
You know, that's why sometimes I would say the way I'm treated in South Africa. I was a director and an acting chief director at Asylum Seeker Management. I used to joke sometimes and say, you know what, maybe I must apply for asylum from another country. Because also that made me feel bad. It was very much hurting, I must say, to be treated like that. And worse, it's when you were cross-examining some of the witnesses, and when they are saying bad things about me, and you trying to go to the veracity of the information, and then you come to the issue, but what if she also had fears? What if she also wanted to deliver the best she knows how? And you got a clean audit, and they claim they had clean audit, but they don't want to accept that we had to go through that process now. And worse, as I said earlier, you know, there was one stage where I don't know whether you saw me. Fortunately, we were doing a virtual platform. We were on a virtual platform when Utebele was testifying. Well, I cried literally because
I did see that.
Yeah, I felt guilty. I went all out for this country.
Shall I propose a 2 minutes break?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mwala.
No, wait. You're proposing? It looks like the witness is not in a right space, so I was proposing
Thank you, Honorable Mwala. Thank you. We're about to get to tea, so at 27:30 now. We'll take a tea break.
Thanks, Chair.
For 10 minutes, back after 10 minutes. We pause for tea. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Deputy Chair.
Recording stopped.